All right, so I'm recording the session, and hopefully I'll be able to share the recording, and it will, get the recording done properly. Without waiting any further, let me share the slides that I have prepared. Okay. Give me a minute. Zoom can get a little tricky with screen share and slides in presentation mode. So hi again, my name is Priyanka, and I probably am unable to see the chat or anything, but please feel free to use the chat to share information or put down any questions. I will share, like I said, I will share these slides with all of you tomorrow. You will receive this via email. But before I begin, a little bit about me. I have been an educator for a long time, but I used to teach as a volunteer and as a substitute teacher, and I was a volunteer. I was a volunteer teacher for an NGO called Peacework. But 6 years ago, I decided to just quit everything and start my own academy. So where I teach, I love working with students. They inspire me. They teach me as much as I coach them. So it's wonderful. So right now I'm actually at my Kirkland location. I teach at my 2 centers here in, so I'm hoping everybody is from the Kirkland, Bellevue, Redmond area, but for anyone who is joining from outside of this area, so this is outskirts of Seattle. So I have a center in Issaquah and a center in Kirkland. So I'm right now at Kirkland. But kind of moving forward, I do teach online as well. Okay, if I can make my slides move, just bear with me just for a minute. Okay, so I will share one thing that I usually don't have this much text on my presentation slides. Now for this case, I do have a lot of text. They're really, really text heavy because I intend to share this as a resource with all of you. So there is as much information as possible on these. I have tried to put in a lot of details. But having said that, I don't want to use the entire hour. I don't even want to use the first 30 minutes to go over this slide and just talk your ears off. Because you're going to receive the slides, I will walk through and kind of point out really pertinent, important points along the slides, because I do want to keep a lot of time for just open discussion, open questions. And I think that is where a lot of wonderful conversation happens. So that's my goal. So for anyone who is new to NSB, it is National Science Bowl. It is a competitive team science event that happens across middle school and high school. So there is a National Science Bowl that happens in Washington, D.C., where one team from every regional kind of goes. So the regionals happen, so for us, it happens kind of Oregon, Washington mostly. And for middle schools, it happens usually, I have seen, as long as I have seen at Portland University, and the high school one happens at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. But those are details that you will get to know when a new session starts. The regionals one are 1 day long, but the national ones last a couple of days. And because we live in such a vibrant community and a lot of students are really passionate and they want to participate, they allow just 3 teams from each school. And some of the schools will actually conduct a qualifier within the school, and they stack rank, which is what happens at Evergreen Middle School, where I have been coaching the teams for the past few years. So they stack rank those, which means they test these students on a written qualifier test, and then they form the teams based on where they stand, cumulative scores for 4 different subject areas. Having said that, They kind of start the registration for NSB. They start early October. By December, they try to wrap up everything. Usually the regionals always happen either in late January or early February. That gives you a little idea of the timeline. And then the national is always in April. So as a coach, I think the most important thing is to really inspire the team and kind of keep them together. But there is a little bit of like the admin work that you have to do during registration to collect information, all of that, and then definitely practice with the team. As we move through the slides, I do have links to, as you can see here, I have linked to a coach registration guide, which is a document that is a few pages long, but along these presentation, I have highlighted things that are really important for you if you want to coach your team. Those are really important to just kind of know right away. So those are already there in this presentation. And then the other thing that the coach needs to do is during the regional competition, the coach gets to sit in the rooms where the event is happening. So usually the competition is two teams, between two teams, and they kind of pair it up randomly. So every team gets to play 4 round robin. Those details are also there. So they get to play 4 round robin against another team. And the coach gets to sit in these rooms. And one of the duties per se for the coach is to really follow through the number of points that your team is losing or getting added, and keep a track of the total points that your team has made. And then the moderator, who is usually the person who is asking the questions, they have a sheet and you just sign off and say, yeah, 159 is the points that my team made. Having said that, so a little bit about how NSB is conducted. So the regionals are conducted in 2 different brackets per se. So right in the morning, they have something called the round robin, where they randomly pair up your team against another team. But your team will always be playing 4 round robin matches. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Okay, I thought that was a question, but yeah, please, I cannot see the chat, or I see just a little sliver of everybody, but if you have a question, please feel free to come off mute and ask. So there are these round robin matches, and then they post the points. So one of the strategies, and this is something that the coach, as you coach your team, just let them know that even if during the round robin matches, which is the first 4 matches, even if your team feels like, oh, I'm very comfortable, like I have 159 points and my opponent team has, let's say, 15 points, and they kind of stall, or like they're not keen on getting more points because they feel very comfortable, which is okay in other cases. But in this case, it is very advisable to keep getting those points, because what happens is when there is a tie, there is no tiebreaker. So like for the round robin, each win gives you a 2 point, a tie gives you 1, and no points for a loss. So if there are like a few teams where they have the same number of points, like let's say 10 teams won 3 matches each, that's when your number of points, they kind of take that into account. So it's usually kind of keep that grit in place and get as many points as possible during the first round robin matches. Then 16 matches move to, sorry, hang on. I have this technology, and smart technology can be very useful, sometimes not very useful. So motion powered lights. So it turned dark, so 16 teams then move to the double elimination round. So the one thing to remember in the double elimination round is that number of points doesn't matter. All the team needs to do is to keep winning the match. And in the double elimination round, they kind of create two brackets, one on the top and one on the bottom. So every team starts at the top and then they kind of keep playing. But when you lose a match, you are pushed to the bottom bracket. You can still keep going. There is still a chance. There are so many times we have seen that teams kind of get pushed to the bottom bracket, and then they keep winning all the matches, and then they end up in the semifinal. But the key thing to remember is if you lose two matches in the double elimination, then you're completely out of the game. So those are details for later, but kind of moving on, starting with the role of a coach. Really, I have added some YouTube videos. Sometimes it just is really helpful. Usually the students, they usually have a lot of questions about like how this is conducted. So it's really nice to just have these YouTube videos and look at them and just get a feel of what happens. I have given a link to a buzzer. A buzzer really helps because at some point, especially in the double elimination round, I have seen so many times that it's not a function of knowledge and I'll get to the types of questions and the amount of time that students have to answer, because it becomes not just a function of how much the student knows, it becomes a function of how fast they can buzz. I hear it all the time when students say, I knew this answer, but the other team buzzed before I did. So it's nice to have a practice with a buzzer just to make sure that it works. So that's for in-person practice. I definitely do in-person practices every week, but sometimes, everybody's busy. Kids are also running different events. So if I do a Zoom practice, I have added a link to, it's a free web app. So it's really handy to test out that buzzer. And as a coach, if you're asking those questions, then you don't have to guess. It just shows up. So like, Aditya, Rishi, and Sheila. So it'll show up all those names as they have buzzed. I just use some random names. So here are the question links that I've provided. Let's get into a little bit of the types of questions. So there are two types of questions, toss-up and bonus. So a toss-up is the critical question, right? So toss-up is the buzzer round. When a toss-up question is asked, the team, and it is asked to both the teams. So when a toss-up question goes out, whoever presses the buzzer first gets to answer, and they have to answer it correctly. So it gets a little critical here. So let's say I'm asking a question, what is the innermost part of the sun? And this is a multiple choice questions. So W, X, Y, Z are the choices. They are usually marked as W, X, Y, Z, the different options. So the toss-up round is extremely, like they have to answer exactly what the mentioned choices are. So sometimes the students already know, they know it's the core, but they can interrupt. So what an interrupt is, if the moderator has not finished asking the question. So for a multiple choice, I can ask the question, what is the innermost part of the sun? And the options are W, X, Y. And before I even say it, the team, sometimes they know. And so they just jump in, press the buzzer, because they're also trying to rack up those points, right? So they jump in and they say core. They will lose points because in a toss-up, if you say the answer correctly, you get 4 points. You lose points or you get -4 for two scenarios. One is when you interrupted the moderator. The moderator has not finished asking the question and you said the answer and it is wrong. If you interrupted and you said the answer correctly, great, you get 4 points. You seal the deal there, you get the next bonus question. So I am not saying that don't encourage your teams to ever interrupt, because that's not a good strategy either. because it's a buzzer round. If they don't interrupt, the other team will interrupt. But make sure they get some of these tips about, like, if it's a multiple choice question, wait for that particular choice to be said. So you make sure that you say the exact word that is mentioned in the options. The other thing to remember, I said 2 scenarios when they can get -4, right? One is that interrupt and wrong answer. The second scenario, when they get -4, they actually don't get -4. It's the same thing. If you think about math, the opponent team actually gets 4 points added to their score. The second scenario where they get points deducted or kind of end up awarding points to the opponent team is when they blurt. Now, blurting is when we have, let's say, 4 members on a team, whoever, and they have individual buzzers. So if the second person on the team presses the buzzer, he has to answer. If the third person answers, that is a blurt. Even if it is a correct answer, they won't get the points. The opponent team will get the points because they already know the answer because this team has blurted it out. So these are the things that is where, like, the coach and the multiple practice and all of that comes in, because at some point it's grit, at some point it's nerves. So the more they practice, they kind of get this. A lot of the times these kids are all, you know, they're passionate, they're smart, but a lot of the times what happens is they get better with, like, pressing the buzzer and knowing when to not blurt out, just thinking about, okay, this guy pressed the buzzer, so even though I know the answer, I'm going to keep absolutely quiet. So those are the things to practice. Now, and I'm telling you, this is the part where I'm going to spend the most time, and then we'll get to questions. So this is the toss-up, right? Let's say the team, so I said 2 scenarios when they lose points. But let's take a scenario where the toss-up question, the moderator has completely finished asking the toss-up question, and the team answers. And they answered a wrong answer. They don't lose points. They just don't get points. So this is another strategy to just work with your team, that when you're not sure of the answer, you should always answer. Like, don't leave it out, guesswork and answer, but just wait for the moderator to completely finish the question and then just say your best guess. Because for a toss-up, you have 5 seconds. So you have to just be very quick. But you can guess. After the moderator has finished the question, you can guess. If it's a wrong answer, no harm done. You just do not get any points. And then the toss-up question goes to the same toss-up question goes to the other team. But let's say your team answers the toss-up question. That's when they, and they get, you know, they answer it correctly. And that's when they get asked the bonus questions. So let's move on to the bonus
Priyanka,
question.
one question.
Sure.
In this blurting part, if one of the team members have pressed the buzzer and he has not answered, like he's not sure of the answer, and other team members, can they tell him what to answer? Is that also blurting?
So good question, really good question. This was there later on. I have added this, but let me answer that question. That's a really good question. So in toss-up, the other thing that you have to remember is team members cannot make a sound. No whisper, no nothing. Even if the moderator just even whisper, even this, they will be like, oh, you blurted. So that's, again, another strategy. When the coach, when as a coach, you are training your team, you have to give them some ways to communicate. So I told them, like, and kids actually get like a writing pad and a pencil. So I tell them a few things to write down, like, as you hear the question, you can write down. And then they're like, they can show each other, but they have to
they can write and show. Okay,
yes.
Got it. Okay.
But let me answer the second part of your question. So let's say you and I and 2 other team members, we are playing the game, we are in the same team. Let's say I press the buzzer, thinking that I know, but I don't know. Once I have pressed the buzzer, no showing, nothing. I have to answer it immediately. If I stall, So
Uh-huh.
if I stall after pressing the buzzer, they will
Mm.
catch immediately and they say you are stalling, and that's -4.
Oh, okay.
So all
Okay.
of the discussion or that writing down, all of that has to happen before you press the buzzer.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
Because sometimes, like, I am not fast, but my team member is faster in pressing the buzzer.
right,
So,
right.
yeah,
But they have to know, and after pressing the buzzer, you can't show them. So one other thing I
got
would
it.
advise is, like, when you're training with your team, tell them to start writing down as the moderator is, saying the question. Because some of these
Got it.
questions, as you go through the link and the questions, they have a lot
Mm-hmm.
of fluff. So for example,
Mm-hmm.
like if, let's say, I'm throwing a ball, starting with no additional force, so there's no kinetic energy, what will be the velocity at the bottom? So instead of giving this as a question, there is a lot of fluff that is added. Imagine a guy is standing at the top of a mountain. What I'm trying to say is and that's where practice comes into play. The team members have opportunity to write down some details and numbers on their scratch pad as the moderator is
Got
saying
it.
the question, and then like get it done.
Got it. Got it.
They
Thanks.
also, you're very welcome. No, good question. And they also changed the rule. Last year, they repeated the toss-up question, which was so fantastic, right? Because you say the whole toss-up question once, you hear it, and you already have started like calculating it, and then the moderator is saying it again. But they have changed that. So now the moderators, they do not repeat the toss-up question. They'll say it just once, and you cannot ask for a repeat. I mean, you can ask, but they won't do it. So that's again practice, right? Because it's listening to it and absorbing that information in one single narration of that whole question, right? Can get very, very dicey. So I think I went through all of this. Let's just keep moving. So we were at the point where your team has finished, and this we went through this as well. So this is like an example where I said like it has to be exactly that text. So one other strategy I will point out here is if it's a multiple choice question, W, X, Y, Z, train with your team to say the option like X instead of trying to say the answer. Because even if they know, and it is not exactly the 5 words or phrases that are mentioned in X. So here, as you will see in the example, is, chemically breaking down food. So if they remember it and they say, yeah, breaking down food, although it is almost the right answer, it will not be accepted. So always advisable to just say W or X or Y or Z. So, okay, so toss-up question, your team has answered. Now they move on to the bonus question, which is a little bit of a relaxed question. Sometimes they also have a little bit of more work to be done, calculation, because there are 20.
Bowl.
Oh, okay. I thought that was a question. Yeah, please feel free to jump in and ask a question. I want this to be as interactive as possible. So the bonus questions, they get 20 seconds to answer. And at 5 seconds, so after like 15 seconds, before 5 seconds, they get a reminder, like 5 seconds remaining, something like that. Train with your team to say the answer at that 5-second mark. Because sometimes if they wait and they have calculated it, because in the bonus question, there is no blurting, there is no interrupt, nothing. So there is no way that your team will lose points, but you don't want your team to not make an attempt and lose the opportunity. So train with them, although it's 20 seconds, train with them to work on their problem as long as they want to, if it's a longer problem. But definitely when the 5-second reminder comes, have them answer the question. And if they're unable to, just take a wild guess, but never lose an opportunity to answer a bonus question. Because the bonus questions is where your points kind of keep going up, because it's 10 points. The other thing to remember is you have to decide who the team captain is. If you already have a team, you have to decide who the team captain is. And when you're practicing with your team, I highly, highly recommend to keep it consistent, because it's something to do with like when you're called, right? So I'll tell you one other thing, but let's finish this about the bonus question. So for the bonus question, if they're the 4 members in a team, right? So there is one captain. And if someone else answers for the bonus question, they won't lose points, but that answer won't be accepted. So just practice that the bonus question has always must always be answered by the team captain. The other thing that I missed to mention is for a toss-up question, and teams actually, so, usually towards the end of the day when they get tired or they're under extreme pressure, let's say they're playing like the semifinals, right? So that's when they make mistakes like this. And it's, I mean, I would make those mistakes too. It's lots of pressure, right? So one thing to remember is, and practice this as you're practicing every single time you practice, definitely practice this. You have to call upon. So I'll give you an example. So let's say, and Neha, I'm going to just use you for example. So let's say Neha, I, and Sheila and Aditya, we are playing. So if I press the buzzer, blurting cannot happen. So Neha cannot answer, but I cannot answer either. I have to press the buzzer, and I have to wait. The moderator has to say Priyanka. They usually have names like A1, 2, 3, and A captain, B1, 2, 3, and B captain. So they have to say, let's say I am A2. They have to say A2. I have to wait for that. And that's the saddest thing, right? If I answer the question, it's a correct if it's a correct answer, right? So if I answer the question before the moderator says my name out loud, like A2, my team doesn't get the points. And you know what happens in a toss-up? If my team is unable to answer, doesn't get points, it goes to the other team, which means they get to answer it correctly because you have said the answer. So they now know the answer. And now they get the bonus question to answer as well, the 10 points, 20 seconds, right? So yeah, those are a few things to just remember when you're practicing. Let me keep
I have a
moving.
question about forming teams, Priyanka.
Sure. Yes, please.
Unless you're covering that later, but so do we get to form a team, or is it only through the school? Like you were saying, for Evergreen, you have a pre-qualifier and only then they get to move forward. Is that how
Yeah.
it is always, or?
For some schools, yes. But I know for other schools, but one thing I know is that the teams have to be from the same school because it's always by the school. But
Mhm.
if, let's say, you already form a team and these qualifiers are usually driven by the PTSA.
Mhm.
And if you kind of work it out with the PTSA and say, we have been practicing, it has been, we have been practicing for the last few months, so can we please keep the team? Usually that happens when there are no other teams, like nobody else is interested. But most of the time there are at least a few students, 20, 25, 30 students who are interested. So that's when they kind of form those qualifiers. It happened to us last time as well. Like so I practiced with my last year's team even after the regionals. So we just practiced, but we were not able to keep the same team. But I'll tell you something. What happened because of that practice is that 3 of those team members qualified this year through the qualifiers. 2 of them made it to team 1. And all the 4 students from last year were team 1, and I kept like working with them. So 2 of them qualified for team 1 and another one qualified for team 3. So it definitely helps, but keeping that team can get tricky. But I wouldn't say, go ahead.
Sorry, and participation is only through school. It's not like we can independently register and appear for NSB. It has to be through the school.
Give me 1 second. The motion thing keeps. Yes, it has to be through a school. Yeah, and
Got
the
it.
school won't register. So you as a, so like for Evergreen, it's completely parent driven. The coaches are parents, we do all the registration and all of that. But just that we have to be within the same team. Same school.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very
You're
welcome.
very welcome.
Hi, Priyanka. This is Surendra.
Yes.
So congratulations. Actually, you built a wonderful team.
Oh,
I saw it.
okay.
I watched it while at Portland.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
my
Thank you.
question is around formation of the team, right?
Yeah.
So, when did you form the team, and when did you start practicing for this year's team, right?
So we had
So
the
we had the
qualifier in November, actually. So
Uh,
we started in November. Yeah.
Got it.
But what I did, I'll tell you a few things that I did last year, like when we practiced with the team. I always give them numbers, like how they give numbers, assign numbers to the team, like, B1, B2, B3, B captain. So
Mhm.
I always practice with that. It's just a matter of like, getting our muscles built. So when I call upon them as I was practicing, I always call upon them as like B1, B2, B captain. So that, helps. I did that even before the team was formed, like with my old team. But once the new team was formed, I immediately started practicing with them with this B1, 2, 3, and B captain thing. But yeah, I wish the qualifiers were done a little sooner. So if you're thinking about 2025, definitely work with your PTSA or if you are organizing those and if you have more students who are interested in participating in NSB, I would say definitely get those qualifiers done soon enough because we definitely felt like a crunch of time. You have the, winter break and, all of those.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Priyanka, when you say qualifiers, do you mean the qualifying exam which is conducted by PTSA, or do you mean something else?
No, I mean within the school. So it's completely driven by, so it's completely within like the PTSA or that particular school's control. So that is, the qualifiers are not at all done by the DOE or the BPA that organizes this. So that's why I'm saying we have a little bit of a say there to get those qualifiers done early on so the students get more time to practice as a team. Because most of the time it's that teamwork. It's that teamwork that really takes them through.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So in terms of strategies, I do have resources. I'm not going to go over them because they're just links to all the books and everything else that I'll send it to you. But I would say one good strategy to follow is to assign a primary subject to each particular, like 4-member in the team. Sometimes teams do have an additional optional. If you've been to NSB, you will see that sometimes they switch. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, and they have a 5th optional, and they will switch after the first set. And those details are there, but I think I skipped over them. So your entire one round of competition, like when 2 teams are, battling against each other, it happens in 18 minutes. So it's 2 sets, 8 minutes of toss-up bonus, however, 8 minutes, they get a 2 minutes break, and then 8 minutes. So it is always like that. So some teams, so win those 8 minutes, you can't do anything. That's like you start at the beginning of that 8 minutes, you start with your 4-member, that's it. Sometimes teams will have a 5th member. After those 2 minutes of break, you can switch out. You can say, okay, it's like almost like a soccer team, someone goes and sits down, takes a break, and somebody else replaces. I did not have, and this is again just my experience and how I worked. It's neither the correct way of doing nor the wrong way of doing. It's just how I looked at it, and I'll share that. So I opted out of 5th member last year as well. We had 4 team members. And I did it for 2 reasons. One, because the team members themselves felt very, very strongly that they just wanted these 4 to work. It's a little risky. So I remember like 2 weeks before, I was like, okay, be very careful. Don't go out into the rain. Don't catch a cold and do all of that. Even this year, we had a 4-member team. So we opted out of not having a 5th member. Same way. The team members, they felt like that's it. And I just felt like there is more. And then again, this is like my 2 cents. I feel like there's more accountability when you have these 4 and they know they're going to get that FaceTime for the entire 8 minutes. So they put in more effort. It's almost like they're having more responsibility on their shoulder, and they show up for it. They show up, they work that much. But some teams do have a 5th member, which is also one way to do it. I will tell you one thing, and I see this happening, is that there was a team that had a 5th member, and the 5th member did not play a single game. Just don't let that happen. I think that's just because, like I said, it's that team. They have to really work together. Conversation, like the conversations, they are not allowed. So they really have to understand each other. They really have to trust each other. So having that, it's really important. So if you have a 5th member, every single practice has to be with all the 5 team members. I feel that way. That's just my how I think. But yeah, there are, you can go either way. You can have, just 4 team members, or you can have an additional one.
I think someone needs to be muted.
Yeah, I'm trying to mute them. So just a request to parents, can you please go on mute if you're having, and I understand there is so much happening. This is evening, so thank you for being here, but just for everybody's comfort. Let me see if I have
Priyanka,
missed. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. So,
Yes.
when we look at the sample questions that they have shared on the website, both for middle school and high school, I believe they have not shared the last 5-year questions or something like that. Maybe like 2019 or prior, we see the questions. So, I mean, what's your take on the latest questions that have been coming and how to prepare for that?
So that's a really good question. So I will tell you one other thing, is that a lot of these concepts they haven't changed. So they are about physics, and they usually don't ask extremely cutting edge, not something that has happened yesterday, like the hydrogen ion collider. Yes, that's fairly new, but not new as in happened in 2022. So some of those questions are still very valid if you look at even like the question papers from 4 years ago. So other than that, like biology, chemistry, physics, math, nothing has really changed. So I did not feel like we were missing out on anything.
Okay.
But the other thing that I will say is that when, so I have resources, right? I assigned them to read. And while they were reading, and I also have online resources, like I'll give them Khan Academy, I'll find out links, and because like I'll give you an example about the equilibrium state of a chemical reaction. I couldn't find any good resource that students can really easily absorb after we discussed in class or like during the thing. So I give them online resources as well. Sometimes those online resources will automatically give them like the latest information. So that helps. But outside of that, I did not feel like we were missing out on anything just because the concepts were just, so, something that has been almost perpetual for us now.
Sure. And one more thing is, Priyanka, so like the thing is, we go through the books and all, but I mean, in the books, mostly, like the concepts are there, but how do we practice for like actual question? Because, when it comes in the form of question, not in the form of concepts. So how, like, what are the other resources that are available outside the sample question they have given on the website? Do you know any books or anything like that?
I do. And actually, instead of going over that, I love these interaction and the questions. I do have tons of resources right after this actually added. So as you receive the PDF, you will receive some of those links and book names and everything else. But I will tell you how I approached it. So I teach science as well. So just
Mhm.
I teach science. So what we did was, for the sake of practice, we did the 8 minutes, 2 minutes, and 8 minutes. We did it like we were actually in the game.
Mhm.
And then, so when there was a toss-up question and they did not answer the toss-up question, I did not ask them the bonus question, but I marked it because
Okay.
I wanted them to practice every single question. And for every question that they were unable to answer correctly, I marked them. Then we would pause and we would discuss that concept. So we would work it out and figure it out, just for the concept clarification. That's how we did it. One other thing I would say is, in terms of subject, I know it, like, chemistry is not, and I think that was important to me. Chemistry is not a separate category for middle schoolers. I
Mhm.
think it's one for high school. It wasn't, but they do have chemistry questions. They have like organic chemistry, and balancing of equations, lots of chemistry questions. And they kind of disguise it under sometimes math, which is strange because they have these molar calculations. These are chemistry, but they disguise them as math or disguise them as energy. So I separated it out and I told my team for everyone to do math, because sometimes in math you need that like confirmation, because they're so fast. So I got 54. So 3 other team members got 56. So I taught them to go with like that trust and all of that, which is like a teamwork that happens. So that's why I told them everyone has to be proficient in math. No questions there. And then I divided physical science, which is physics, life science, which is biology, chemistry, and earth and space, among the 4 team members. Again, energy, I do have resources for those, but energy kind of, it's like a catch-all for a lot of the questions. I feel like energy, because it's organized by an energy company, they want to have an energy category, but the energy questions are mostly physics questions and chemistry questions.
Got
Did I
it.
answer your question, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
you did. Thank
Okay.
you.
You're very welcome. And I think I saw Saravana and Prasanna's hand up. So please come off mute and yeah, we can discuss.
Yeah, Prasanna, do you want to go? Okay, maybe let me go first.
Yeah.
So the other
Go ahead.
question, yeah, okay. The other question what I had was like, for optional students, right, the 5th student,
Uh-huh.
what would be your recommendation for the subject that needs to be focused on by that 5th student?
That's a really good question. I would go with what that particular student is passionate about or like really good at. So we did a few of those things when I divided subjects among the students. One is what, like, so that's where the qualifier exam also helps. And what also helps is what they already are like, they know that if this is the subject that they will be assigned, they will work hard to learn more about it. They're like, they really love that subject. Sometimes some students will be like, no, please don't give me chemistry. I give me anything else. So we'll try to work with that. So for the 5th student, whatever that student takes, I would highly recommend that not be exclusive. So let's say that particular student gets chemistry, definitely have like other students chemistry as well. So that way, when that student is kind of waiting outside, your team is not missing out on the chemistry knowledge.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So even if like, so with a 5-member, I would work it this way. So when, let's say with 4 team members, what I did was divide it into 4 subjects and have each team member pick one, which is their primary. So each team member is supposed to pick one that is primary and another one that is secondary. So if you have 5 team members, you divide it the same way. Each team member does one primary and one secondary.
Okay,
And
got it.
the way
Thank you.
it would work out is if you think about like we did math everybody, and it doesn't need to be like that. Like, it's not that there is just one path to success. So you don't need to do math for everybody. You can even like consider math as one of those 5 subjects. So you get math, physics, chemistry, biology, and earth and space. Yeah. I would highly recommend don't separate out energy, because the energy questions are really like, if you think of a Venn diagram, it just covers everything. It just, yeah. So
Hey, Priyanka. Yeah, this is Prasanna.
Hi, Prasanna, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, so I do echo with you. Like, I was a coach for Pine Lake Middle School this year. So,
Awesome.
earlier question on like when they were asking like, what happens to the latest sets. But I did notice when I was going over with the team this year,
Mhm.
and when I was in the room during the round robin matches, I did notice that not even a single question was outside of the material or the sample questions that were already present in those round robin rounds
Yeah.
till up to 8. So
Yes.
I don't think we are missing anything with the questions as such.
Yes,
Uh,
I agree.
yeah, I do
agree.
echo with you on that. But I do have one question. Like,
Yeah,
if you
please go
are
ahead.
assigning each team member with one set of subject, are you also telling them with the buzzer aspect of it, like, only, let's say if it's a chemistry question or a physical science question, are you asking the assigned person only to press the buzzer, or will there be any clash during that? Like, there might be other person on the team who might know the answer, but they might feel like it's not my subject, should I press the buzzer or not? So how did you handle that conflict?
That's a really good question. And that comes with practice. So what I did was primary person, yes, you press the buzzer. But like you said, sometimes if I am the primary physics person, but this other person, because it's all a function of how fast you press the buzzer, right? So to rack up those points. So when the question is being when the question is being asked, I gave them like silent communication to make sure to let their team know. So the team, I always told them, look at each other all the time, because toss up is all about, zip the lip and you communicate with your, like whatever you write down. So I told them to write down and just have some signs to let the other person know, like, I got this. And they just let that person do that thing. So that's what, like, that trust, right? And that happens with a lot of practice. So even during practice, yes, concepts, we definitely did a lot of concept clarification, and we paused after questions. We I explained like why this is like that. But what I also gave them as goals is, let's say the first day, right? I think someone else had a question about like, when did we start practicing? And like November, I was psyched out because it just like, we didn't have a lot of time. So the first time when the team got together, they had so many mistakes, not well, with the concepts, yes, but not so much with the concepts, but with blurting out, with not waiting for me to call upon. So I gave them goals like that. Like, okay, today you got 12 negative for your toss-ups. And I always had a sheet, and I always wrote down like how many points they were getting, how many negative points they were getting, and I told them 12. So you got to bring it down. You cannot have negative points. You have to bring it down. And usually those negative points happen like this. like, I know that this is my primary subject, but for this particular question, my teammate like is absolutely sure that this is the answer, and we kind of both end up buzzing. So that's again considered wrong, and they end up getting -4. So yeah, that's what like that silent communication comes into practice. And then one other thing I'll share in terms of teamwork is and this is only possible when you have the bonus question. So let's say for a bonus question, you have a math question and there are like these choices, W, X, Y, Z. Let's take the example of what is the discriminant of a polynomial function? And they have these choices. So I always told them, don't let just the math, the primary math person to solve everything. 4 choices, you are 4 people on your team. You have 15 seconds. And I told them, like, just divide and conquer. So everybody uses one, and then they decide, okay, I know X is correct, and they're like, go ahead with it. Also, I told them multiple times, like, bonus is a time when you can talk, keep talking. Like, do not keep, even if you have a doubt, like this is the answer I'm thinking, just keep talking. Bonus is the perfect time to discuss, come up with an answer, and really, really get those 10 points. Those make a huge difference.
Cool. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like with my experience this year, I did notice that it's more than the knowledge, the format that the students need to get acclimated to is the biggest thing that plays a role in the success of this competition. Yeah, thank you. Oh, thank you,
You're very
Priyanka.
welcome. A few other things that I did, and like I said, like these students are, passionate, competitive. So a few of the practices, they wanted to test out team practices, even if they were just 4, like coming and practicing together. So they split themselves into a team of 2 each. And they did a round robin in the sense like, let's say my team had 1, 2, 3, 4. So like permutation for the first round, 1 paired with 3 and 2 and 4, and the second one, 1 paired with 2. But every single time they realized like they were missing out. And I did that deliberately to show them that how important it is for 4 of them to work together to really make that difference. But yeah, so yeah, I think we are kind of towards the end. There's nothing. There's nothing to. For me to mention here. I just have some links, which I'm sure all of you know. The following slides are all resources. I'm not going to say them out loud because I'm going to share it anyways. The other thing for a team practice, I told them, and I'm sure it's something that is very, very evident, is during practice or during the actual thing, it's possible that you will lose a game because of one of your teammates. Like, never blame. Like, this could have been anyone. And so because let's say they're playing 4 round robin. On the 3rd one, let's say they lose. There is still a chance to make it to the, top 16. But the moment, and it's possible that they lost because, one of the team members blurted out, got nervous. So many things could happen at the time, right? So do not blame, because once that happens, the team like cracks up, and the next game that they're going to play in, it shows up, like it shows up in their performance. So that's something that, and I know like all of you awesome parents and coaches out there, you already know this, but I just thought like it's very evident, but something that is really important to just drill it into, the student's mind, that no blaming. So yeah. Yeah, I want to use, okay, so it is 8:30. I want to be mindful of time, but I know like it was a really wonderful conversation. I am going to hang out for a few more minutes so that I want to make sure that I answer everybody's questions. But I do, if you have any questions, of course, you probably came through WhatsApp, so you have my phone number. I have it on the slide as well. And do reach out. I do offer NSB and Science Olympiad focus classes. And, you know, just as a parent to parent, any other conversation. So those information will be there. But I can hang out for a little bit if I have missed out on anybody's questions. Please come off mute and we can have an open conversation. I'm probably going to stop recording now.
Hey Priyanka, thank you for all the pointers. I guess you mentioned
You're
you will be
welcome.
sharing the slide